The Galactic Council chamber was alive with murmurs, a symphony of whispers and subtle movements from dozens of alien species. At the center of the grandeur, a crystalline podium shimmered with light, amplifying the voice of the council speaker. They were a towering figure with sleek, glistening skin that refracted colors like a prism. Their voice was calm, authoritative, carrying the weight of countless eons of experience. Humans fear war above all else, the speaker declared, their gaze sweeping over the assembly. It is this fear that defines their species, this reluctance for confrontation that limits their role in galactic affairs. A ripple of agreement spread across the chamber. Some nodded subtly. Others exchanged amused glances, their expressions carrying a mix of superiority and dismissal. A stout representative with chitinous plating from the Zorith species leaned toward a neighbor and clicked in a language too fast for untrained ears. But the mocking tone was unmistakable. The accusation hung in the air like a weight, pressing down on the silence. Then the human diplomat arrived. Ambassador Morgan stepped forward, their measured pace and unflinching gaze a stark contrast to the tension in the room. Clad in the understated elegance of Earth's diplomatic corps, they were the only human present in a sea of alien delegates. "I apologize for my tardiness," Morgan began, their voice steady but sharp. "It seems I've arrived just in time for a most intriguing discussion." They looked toward the speaker, the barest hint of a challenge in their expression. "Fear of war, you say? I'd like to hear the reasoning behind such a claim." The speaker tilted their head, an almost imperceptible gesture of condescension. "Your species' history speaks for itself. For centuries, humans sought to resolve their disputes with treaties, diplomacy, and compromises. Even when thrust into conflict, your goal has always been to avoid the totality of war. Is this not a sign of fear?" A murmur spread again, some nodding, others laughing quietly. Morgan stood still, their face betraying no emotion, but something about their posture shifted, an imperceptible tightening of the shoulders, a stillness that seemed to gather like a storm. "So that is your interpretation," Morgan said finally, their tone colder now. "You see a species that values diplomacy, that weighs the cost of violence, and you call it fear?" They paused, their eyes scanning the room. "Let me correct that notion." Their words cut through the air like a blade, silencing the whispers. Morgan's calm demeanor had cracked, revealing a smoldering intensity beneath. "You misunderstand humanity. You see our restraint and think it weakness. You hear our preference for peace and think it cowardice. But you have no idea what it has cost us to reach that point." The speaker seemed taken aback by the fire in Morgan's voice, but they remained silent. The chamber, too, was still, all attention locked on the lone human. Morgan stepped closer to the center, their voice rising, brimming with restrained fury. "I will not stand by while you insult my people," they said. "Not here. Not ever." Morgan's voice filled the chamber, steady and unwavering, every word charged with the weight of history. "You claim humans fear war, yet you speak from ignorance. Let me tell you what fear truly is, and why we have learned to wield it." Their gaze swept across the assembly, their tone intensifying as they continued. "Centuries ago, our planet was consumed by war. Nations clashed, borders shifted, and the soil was soaked with the blood of countless lives. The First and Second World Wars weren't mere skirmishes or isolated incidents. They were global infernos where millions perished. Entire cities were reduced to ash, leaving behind nothing but rubble and silence. Do you think those wars were fought because we were afraid? No. They were fought because humanity would rather risk annihilation than surrender its will." The chamber was silent now, the quiet broken only by the faint hum of translation devices. Morgan's voice did not waver. And then came the Cold War, a conflict fought in the shadows, where the fear of a single wrong move loomed over every decision. The threat of nuclear destruction wasn't theoretical, it was real. One press of a button could have erased everything. Yet we endured. We didn't succumb to that fear, we mastered it. We turned it into caution, into resolve, into a reason to survive. Morgan's words painted vivid pictures of Earth's darkest hours, of trenches filled with exhausted soldiers, of mushroom clouds that scarred the sky, of desperate families clinging to hope. You look at these moments and see a species that avoids war. But what you fail to grasp is that we don't avoid it out of fear, we avoid it because we know its cost. The ambassador's voice grew quieter, more deliberate, forcing the audience to lean in. We've watched as brothers fought brothers, as entire generations were lost to battles they didn't choose but had to fight. We've felt the ache of victory, the bittersweet weight of survival when the price was too high. That's not fear, it's wisdom earned through suffering. The alien delegates shifted in their seats, their earlier smugness now replaced by something closer to unease. Morgan's intensity had wrapped the room in a taut silence, their words pulling each listener into humanity's brutal legacy. Do any of you know what it means to rebuild a world shattered by war? Morgan asked, their voice sharp. Do you know the resilience it takes to turn ruins into cities, to transform the lessons of death into a yearning for peace? Humanity has endured wars that would have broken most species, and we've emerged stronger every time. So do not confuse our reluctance to engage in conflict with an inability to do so. The ambassador straightened, their voice ringing with finality. We have not forgotten what war truly is, and because of that we value peace. But make no mistake, if we must fight, we will do so with the fury of a species that has survived hell and is not afraid to return to it. Morgan's voice shifted, colder now, sharpened with purpose. You speak as though humans are strangers to war among the stars. Let me remind you of our place in galactic history, earned not through fear, but through fire and determination. They paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. When the Zorian conclave declared war on the unified galactic colonies, it was human ships that broke their blockade. Our fleets, hastily assembled and vastly outnumbered, tore through their armada. And when the final confrontation came, it was a human admiral who led the charge, devising the strategy that turned what should have been certain defeat into decisive victory. Morgan's words rang with authority, their recounting precise and vivid. It wasn't just tactics that carried the day. It was the resolve of every human fighter who knew they might not return but still launched themselves into the void. They fought not just for their survival, but for the survival of every ally who stood with them. The alien representatives listened intently, their expressions betraying growing unease. Morgan continued without pause. And when the Zevrik plague ravaged your colonies, when your people fell by the thousands, it was human scientists who worked night and day to find a cure. We didn't ask for payment. We didn't hesitate. We simply acted because that's who we are. Our response to crisis isn't retreat or cowardice. It's to confront the impossible head-on. Their voice rose slightly, pressing the point home. But it wasn't just our ingenuity or bravery that stood out. During the Ikaran Revolt, when chaos spread across half the galaxy, humanity didn't stand on the sidelines. We sent troops to protect cities that weren't ours, fought battles that weren't ours, and died on worlds we'd never even seen. And when the war ended, we stayed to rebuild, offering our knowledge and our hands, because it was the right thing to do. The chamber was utterly silent now, every word driving deeper into the hearts of the gathered aliens. You claim we fear war, Morgan said, their tone hard. Yet time and time again, we have fought when others faltered. We have faced enemies who were stronger, faster, and more advanced, and we have prevailed, not because we sought war, but because we refused to let fear dictate our fate. They stepped closer to the center, their presence commanding. What you fail to see is that humanity's strength isn't in our weapons or our strategies, though those are formidable. It's in our ability to adapt, to endure, and to unify in the face of adversity. We do not fight for the love of battle. We fight because we believe in protecting what matters, even when the odds are against us. Morgan's voice softened, but the edge remained. You think humanity is defined by fear? Then look at our history, our actions, and our sacrifices, and tell me, what have we ever done to earn that insult? No, Council. Humanity does not fear war. Humanity masters it. Morgan's gaze swept across the room, their voice steady, but carrying the force of a challenge. You've heard our history, seen our actions, yet still question our resolve. Let me make this clear. Humanity is not defined by its fear, but by its will. If you think otherwise, then perhaps it's time we tested those assumptions. They paused, letting the weight of their words linger. You look at us and see a species that avoids conflict. You mistake our diplomacy for hesitation, our desire for peace as weakness. But what you fail to understand is that humanity doesn't avoid war because we cannot fight it. We avoid it because we know what happens when we unleash ourselves fully. The tension in the chamber was palpable now, the alien representatives leaning forward captivated. When humans fight, we do not stop. We adapt. We overcome. When our backs are against the wall, we become something your kind cannot predict or control. It's not weapons that make us dangerous. It's the sheer determination that we carry into every battle, the refusal to accept anything less than survival and victory. Morgan's voice gained momentum, rising like a tide. Your greatest mistake is underestimating us. Every enemy who has done so has paid the price. Those who thought they could crush us learned the hard way that humanity doesn't break. We endure, and when we are threatened, we rise as one, uniting in ways your fragmented coalitions can barely comprehend. They stepped forward, every movement deliberate. You ask what gives us the right to stand among you as equals. I ask in return, what have you done to match us? Have you fought wars on scales that stretched across planets, across centuries? Have you rebuilt entire civilizations from ash while carrying the scars of those battles in your blood and your memory? Morgan's words struck like hammer blows, their intensity unwavering. Humans do not seek war, but we will not shy away from it. We are a species forged in conflict, shaped by adversity, and tempered by every hardship we have overcome. Peace is our choice, but war is in our nature, honed to perfection over millennia. They straightened, addressing the entire assembly now. So if you doubt us, test us. Push humanity to the edge and see what happens. But I'll warn you, you may not survive to regret that decision. We do not fight because we enjoy destruction. We fight because we refuse to let anyone dictate our future, to let anyone take what we have earned. The room was utterly silent, the weight of Morgan's words pressing on every individual present. Their voice softened, but the steel remained. So let's not waste time with insults and posturing. Humanity has proven its strength time and again. What remains is your choice. Do you stand with us, or do you stand against us? Either way, we will endure. The question is whether you will. They turned, their final words echoing through the chamber. You don't fear us yet, but you will.